Hello, everybody. Dan Wright, Sangamon County State's Attorney here. Another edition of our PUPIL Promoting Unity Through Public Interest Law guest interviews. This is the third and what I hope will be a series of installments in this interview series to promote careers in public interest law and interest in public interest law careers by young people in our community. We've had a couple of these before. And I'm really excited to have my good friend Senor-Moore as our guest in this episode. Sierra is a native of Springfield, and she and I actually worked together in the state's attorney's office years ago. And she grew up in Springfield, went to Southeast High School. And where did you go to college and law school, Sierra?
I went to University of South Carolina, the main campus in Columbia, South Carolina for undergrad, and then for law school, I went to Indiana University, Indianapolis campus, which is the IUPUI McKinney School of Law.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And then backing up just a little bit, just to remind folks that watch this, what's PUPIL all about? Well, Promoting Unity Through Public Interest Law is an initiative that has been limited to remote interaction thus far during the age of COVID, but the idea is to promote interest in public interest law careers among young people in Sangamon County, and convening resources, whether that be, governmental attorneys, social service agencies, churches, local clubs and organizations, to try to convince young people in this community that they should strongly consider careers in public interest law. And we think long-term, the more people that we can educate about those careers and get them interested, that'll result in an increase in local people who choose those careers and perhaps choose to return to our community. And Senor-Moore, even though she made that decision long before PUPIL, that's exactly the kind of result that we're looking for, is bringing someone back to our community after they've gained the skills and experience to make a positive impact in a career in public interest law in our community here in Sangamon County. So with that, I will Sierra, take you through the general questions that we ask everybody on these PUPIL interviews, and feel free to add in anything that you would like that you find relevant to those who might be watching, young people that are interested potentially in a career path that you've taken. So I'll start with, how would you define public interest law in your own words?
I think public interest law is anything that serves the public. So that could be anything from, working at the state's attorney's office, working at the public defender's office, working at the U.S. attorney's office, or the federal public defenders, but it also would include working for any municipality. There are attorneys at every single state agency. There is an attorney for every single municipality, or any sort of government agency or government entity. Even if they don't have someone in-house that they have full-time, they have someone that they have to have on retainer, because there are always questions of law that come up. And so you always need to have an attorney who is well-versed in the laws and is acting in the best interest of the public. So I would just define public interest law as someone who is a lawyer but works in the best interest of the public in whatever aspect or arena that may be.
I think that's well said. And in addition to the areas you mentioned, I think, things like civil rights law, or housing advocacy, disability rights advocacy. There are a number of. I certainly would consider public interest lawyers those who work for Land of Lincoln Legal Assistance and helping those who don't have the resources to have competent legal representation to provide that free of charge. Things like that. But there really is just such a broad spectrum. And that's part of our PUPIL initiative, is to try to spread awareness about those things. So let's talk more about Sierra. Your career path after you graduated law school. You studied for the bar exam and defeated that monster, and started your career in the Sangamon County State's Attorney's Office. So when you were at the State's Attorney's Office, you were in the Trafficking Misdemeanor Division, and then later worked in the Juvenile Division, right?
That's correct.
And then you moved on to the Attorney General's office, where I think you practiced in the General Law Division. Tell us a little bit about what your duties and responsibilities were in that capacity.
In the General Law Division, what a lot of people don't know is if you work for the state of Illinois or you serve the state of Illinois. If you are sued for doing something in your job capacity, then you can be represented by an attorney from the Attorney General's office, unless you did something criminal. But like if you were acting through your job and you were being sued for something that you did during your job, you can be represented by the Attorney General's office. So in the general division at the Attorney General's office, we represented individuals who worked for the state of Illinois and were being sued by others. Mostly the cases that I handled were individuals who worked for the Department of Corrections and were being sued by people who were incarcerated in the Department of Corrections. So usually inmates, there was a lot, it's civil rights violations is what they were usually being sued for. So individuals who were incarcerated were suing because various reasons. Everything from the temperature was too low in the wintertime in the facility, so it was super cold, to allegations that they were physically hurt by a corrections officer. So it was like a wide spectrum of cases that I handled there.
All right. So great experience at the Attorney General's office, and not to spoil the news for everyone, but you've recently accepted a new position at the United States Attorney's Office, correct? Here in Springfield.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. And you start that, what, next month?
Yes.
All right. So what a great opportunity that will be, and that'll be in the criminal division, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Well, congratulations on that, and you're going to be a huge asset to that office.
Oh, thank you.
What or who most inspired you to pursue a career in public interest law?
Well, growing up in Springfield, my parents kind of took me everywhere they went, and a lot of that included going to different places for community involvement. I always had to have service hours, starting in middle school for Beta Club and going into high school for National Honor Society. But even before then, if my dad was going somewhere to volunteer, I was usually there, right there with him. So we did a lot of public activities as a family. We showed up to a lot of different events that were for charity, giving either of our time or our donations. And so I always had an interest in working for the public. However, when I went to law school, I was actually interested in intellectual property, which would be IP law, but I found that to be extremely boring. And I really enjoyed my criminal law class, and my criminal law professor was amazing. She was, before she became a professor, she had actually worked for a non-for-profit in Connecticut, and they did pro bono work mostly. She mostly did criminal defense, but she kind of inspired me and kind of lit the fire as far as criminal law is concerned, because she made it relatable, she made it understandable, she broke it down. And for anybody who's been to law school, if your parents haven't been to law school or you're not prepared, it is extremely hard. It's a whole different thought process and a whole different language that is being used. So if you weren't prepared for it, then it can be daunting coming into it. But because she broke it down and made it relatable, I was really interested in it. And then I was fortunate enough to be able to get the internship at the state's attorney's office here in Springfield between my second and third year. And then I was, I kind of just kept hounding John Milheiser and was fortunate enough to get hired on after law school so that I could start my career at the state's attorney's office after I graduated.
Awesome. Well, and one thing I think is interesting about what you said is that person that inspired you and helped you kind of, demystify the process of succeeding in law school and making it through that grueling experience to become a public interest lawyer. You encountered that person actually in law school. And I think one of the objectives of PUPIL is to try to be a resource for people before they go to law school, to try to, break down some of those mental barriers that might be intimidating about even trying, especially if you don't have any lawyers in your family before. So I appreciate your involvement in trying to help people overcome some of those barriers to get them interested in going to law school. This is one of the most important questions, I think, in these interviews, and it's really timely. How can young people draw upon their own life experiences to recognize the impact public interest law can have on our community and take that passion to make a positive impact or to change society, any part of society that they find requires change. How can they draw upon their own life experiences to motivate them to do that?
Well, public interest law, as we discussed, touches everything in your life, whether you know it or not, whether you accept it or not. The school district has an attorney. All the non-for-profits have an attorney. So public interest law touches everything. And one thing that neither of us actually stated was the legislator. Most of the people in the legislature have gone to law school, be that at the state or at the federal level. So they are obviously ones who are affecting your everyday life. They are the ones who are passing the bills that become the law, that let everybody know, yes, this is okay to do, or no, this is not okay to do, or this is how you should go about just life kind of in general. They shape our everyday lives, because they not only do they make the laws, but they also, as we are seeing at the national level, they seat the judges who then decide if laws should remain or how those laws should be applied. So if you get involved in public law, you can help to shape pretty much every aspect of life. I like to tell people that, because when people ask me, like, why would you want to be a prosecutor? Wouldn't you want to be a public defender to help people? It's like, but I tell them, you wouldn't need a public defender if you didn't have charges filed against you. So you want somebody in the prosecutor's office who is, being fair, being unbiased, looking at all of the information, taking it in, and then determining what the best course of action should be. And should that best course of action be, yes, we do file charges, and then we ask for that person to be spend some time in jail or prison, or sometimes the best course of action could be, okay, the prosecutor takes a look at the information, takes a look at the person, and says, you know what, this person has a military background, they seem to be suffering some, substance abuse or mental health issues, and so they divert that person to veterans court, or they find some other resources to help that person, as opposed to just filing charges against them. So if you have people who are compassionate and unbiased and fair, and they're in positions not just at the public defender's office, but at the state's attorney's office, or at the nonprofits, or even at the police station, then you can ensure fairness, and you can ensure a better result, not just for that individual person, but for the community as a whole. I know a lot of kids are very, very excited around the different movements that are gaining attention with Black Lives Matter. And I know a lot of the students have gone out this summer and were at the Capitol building and did the marches and things like that. So I would encourage them to get involved with public interest law, because they can help shape what's going on in their communities. They can help, shape the laws by being in the legislature. They can help shape who's being charged, or how that person ends up being punished. If they're in the prosecutor's office, they can defend that person. If they're in the public defender's office, they can be the judge who is actually handing down the sentence. They can work in the police department, police departments, and different other agencies, such as, the FBI or the DEA. They love to have people who have gone on to law school and then come back and work for them, because they want somebody who is knowledgeable about the law. And when you are someone who's from the community, and you are either policing that community, or you work with someone who is policing that community, then you can help to shape those, officers into how that community works. And you can help guide them to make what's the best decision for this community, because something that works and would be in the best interest of people, even let's say in Grandview, is not necessarily what's going to work or be in the best interest of people in Jerome, or just in any other part of the city. Just because we're in the same city or in the same sort of area, that doesn't mean that one size fits all. And when you work in public interest law, you have a seat at the table. Right. You get to help make those decisions.
Yeah, I mean, so well said. And I think that really is what what Pupil is all about, is articulating what you just said about the just the diversity of opportunity in so many different areas that are not just academic. They really have a very real impact on everyone's daily lives. And we need good people that are fair and want to do the right thing in every position, on every side of at every seat at the table in the justice system, but also just throughout society in those positions that require a legal background, and that lawyers can have an impact on their community. So thanks for putting it in such in such great terms. So last question, and then I want to talk to you about the Teen Court Initiative briefly with the time we have left. For those interested in law school but aren't sure how to prepare, which is probably everyone, what advice would you give them?
First of all, be open-minded. Law school is great, but you can go to law school and then you can do anything afterwards, but you can also do anything before. So people are always asking me, well, what should I major in so I can go to law school? Whatever you're interested in.
Right. Just study hard, develop good study habits.
TV kind of led us astray because they were like, I'm majoring in pre-law, and then you're looking in the college catalog and there's no pre-law. That's not like a thing.
Right.
So you can really major in whatever you're interested in. I would say that you definitely need to build strong skills in certain areas, which would be writing, reading comprehension.
Right.
But you can major in whatever, I would say major in whatever interests you, because that's what's going to motivate you to get through college, is doing what interests you. So if you're interested in, even if you're interested in dance, like go ahead and major in dance. You might want to do a double major, maybe English or something, but but major in what interests you, because otherwise you're not going to be motivated to finish. And I think that's a lot of why people don't end up finishing college, because they're not interested in the subject matter. Who wants to get up at 8 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and go to an accounting class, and they don't like numbers?
Right. Well, just like you said about intellectual property, you thought that was your initial interest, but you were able to quickly identify that wasn't what was truly going to motivate you, moving forward in your career. So I completely agree with what you said. I went to law school with people who had engineering backgrounds, or majored in chemistry and things that isn't like that sort of history, political science, cookie cutter that you hear about. You really need to major in English or history or political science. You really don't. And Sierra's absolutely right that it really is, major in what motivates you to develop good study habits. And that is really what's going to prepare you the best, is a lot of reading comprehension, lots of writing, and just immersing yourself in that in a topic in college that's going to motivate you to develop those skills. And I would just add to that I think if you identify an interest at the high school or college level in a career in public interest law, find a mentor that's in the field already. And that's, again, another thing that Pupil is designed to try to facilitate, is to make those kinds of people who have lived experience in the fields of public interest law and what it takes to get there, to help those who have an interest but haven't yet gone to law school, to be best prepared for doing that and do the right things to put themselves in a position that they can be successful. So I think that's what one of the things Pupil is all about. And I'm thankful to you, Sierra, for being willing to be a part of our group of mentors, to be available for people that we can persuade to at least consider a career in public interest law. So with that, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Teen Court Initiative that you have been the spearhead for in Sangamon County, and we're hopeful that once COVID passes and we can get back into in-person learning in local school districts, that we can try to fully implement a teen court program in the Springfield area. And I'll leave it to you to just give sort of a basic explanation, a summary of what the Teen Court Project is and what it seeks to achieve.
Well, Teen Court is actually something that's, I didn't come up with it, obviously, but it's done nationwide. But there's one actually outside of Springfield. Some of the smaller areas outside of Springfield have a teen court. So that's where I learned about it from, because Kendra Hansel in the state's attorney's office, she actually runs the teen court that operates out of like the Williamsville, Riverton, those types of schools, areas. But what teen court ultimately is a group of teens who sit on a panel or jury, if you will, and they hear cases from individuals who are their peers, and they bring the person before the court. The person has to admit that they did commit whatever act they're being accused of, and then they are given the opportunity to speak with the panel and explain. They could explain, why they did it, or they could explain what the situation is, or if they're going through anything in their life, and then the panel deliberates and then determines what sort of repercussions the person will have to be faced with. And those are usually something that the goal is restorative justice. So that could be that the person has to do some sort of community service, or maybe if they were drinking, they would have to do a paper on effects of alcohol on the teenage body, or they could be required to pay restitution to someone who was harmed by whatever act they committed, or just a wide variety of things. The purpose behind it is to let offenders know that their actions don't just affect them, so they affect the community as a whole. And when your peers are the ones who you're coming before, and you have to explain your actions to them, and then they deliberate and they give you what they feel to be is a just punishment, then the thought process is that you as a teenager will then understand how you have affected your peers, but also you will learn something from whatever the punishment, I don't want to use the word punishment, but whatever those consequences are. But restorative justice is a big thing behind that, because what we're trying to do is to make the students understand that, yes, they may have done something that broke the rules or that was inappropriate, but we can, learn from that. We can help to restore not just ourselves, but our community back to where it was before, and hopefully move forward and be in a better place, not just as an individual, but with whoever or whatever your actions disturbed in the first place. The goal is to get it at Southeast this year, and hopefully if it was successful at Southeast, to get it at the other high schools. And we were going to allow just a wide range of offenses to be brought before the court, everything from smaller infractions, such as, getting into an argument in class, so like maybe like an assault situation, to fights if no one was injured, or no teachers were involved, and it was just a one-on-one fight. No one used a weapon and no one got hurt. But also, maybe, I believe theft was one that we were going to allow, or property damage, as long as they were misdemeanors and the individuals were not. The individuals were either like first offenders or not already involved in the court system.
So in some ways, it's kind of it would fall into the category of a diversionary program of a sort too, and that what we're trying to do is avoid direct justice involvement, so to speak, or having people enter
the goal
into the
is to prevent people from getting into the juvenile court system,
right,
by handling it in the school. Now how they do it in other areas, I know with the other group in the Springfield area, they have juries that don't judge, so to speak, individuals from their own school. So like the Williamsville kids sit on a jury and they will not hear any cases from the Williamsville, but due to the nature of Springfield kind of as a whole, I think we were going to have in-house court, so that, and I think that would be helpful. So it's like, if you are a Southeast student and you go before the judge or the jury of other Southeast students, then you can better understand that these people as individuals, even if they weren't standing there when that fight happened that you got into, they were affected as well. Their classroom time was disrupted, or their classmates were distracted due to talking about the fight. Just learning about that information can hopefully help students understand that their actions are wide-reaching. It's like a little ripple that blossoms out to be a big wave down the road or down the ocean, because of how just the nature of life.
And this is something that the program requires the consent of the victim and the person who committed the act. It's also something that involves the state's attorney's office as an active participant in terms of agreeing that this is someone that, or at least the nature of the conduct is something that would be eligible for that kind of program. And it's expressly authorized by the Juvenile Court Act as well, right?
Yes, the Juvenile Court Act does allow for diversionary programs, and even though the person if the person participates in the program and they have a successful completion, then there would be an agreement that the state's attorney office would not file any charges in the juvenile court. However, if the student does, for whatever reason, fail to carry out all of the required acts for the probationary period as put on by the jury, then the state's attorney's office could pick up the case. However, the student's admission, or so to speak, at the teen court would not be held against them and could not be used in a court of law to say,
right,
to adjudicate them as being guilty.
Right. And as members of the Sangamon County Juvenile Justice Council, Sierra and I have been working on this project, and had great response from District 186. And that was just sort of on the precipice of COVID, and then it was sort of derailed by that. But we are looking forward to resuming efforts to implement the teen court program in our community. And Sierra, again, you may not have invented the teen court concept, but you have certainly been the driving force behind implementing that in the district in which you came up. And so I'm thankful for that, and thankful for your expertise and your support in getting that up and going in our community. So thanks for being a guest on the pupil interview program, so to speak. And for folks out there that are interested in learning more about Pupil, you can find out more information on our Facebook page, which is @SangamonPupil. That's @SangamonPupil. We will continue to have these interviews on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. And stay tuned for the next installment. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful day.